Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, the ARC Digital Transformation Viewpoints podcast is the only podcast dedicated to all things related to digital transformation in energy, industrial, and critical infrastructure applications. The podcast is the creation of the ARC Advisory Group Digital Transformation Practice. ARC advises leading companies on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business. To engage further, please like and share our podcasts or reach out directly on Twitter at ARC_advisory, or please go to the website at www.arcweb.com.
Hi, this is Colin Masson from ARC Advisory Group. I'm here today with Steve Blackwell, who I've talked to quite a few times on podcasts, but this time we are going to talk about and do a bit of a recap of AWS reInvent from, I guess it's a whole 2 weeks ago now, right?
It was, yeah.
It was. And Steve you lead the Manufacturing Center of Excellence at Amazon Web Services, which I think covers automotive as well as industrial sector broadly, right?
Correct, yes. And my team also specifically focuses on product engineering and smart products and services with our automotive manufacturing customers.
Great, okay. Let's straight into it. I mean, I have published ARC's top 10 takeaways from an industrial AI perspective. So obviously I had a specific lens, and I greatly enjoyed the event. But I'm sure it's a core part of your job to highlight what the top takeaways are for AWS customers for the Manufacturing Center of Excellence. So it looks like you've got a top 7 that you sent me. And I think I've got most of them covered, but the first one I didn't have in my top 10. You put, and I don't think these are necessarily ranked, are they? I think it was just 7,
yeah.
right? But the one that was at top of the list from you, and I'd love to understand why you put it in your top 7, was Graviton 5 processors.
Yes, so this is our 5th generation of Graviton, our custom silicon. Graviton 5 offers over 25% performance improvement over Graviton 4. The reason why I see this as quite relevant is just the price and performance that Graviton 5 or Graviton and Graviton 5 now offers to manufacturers, where manufacturing and manufacturers are always looking to kind of optimize performance, and cost is always going to be key. And we're seeing more and more manufacturers actually start to address a lot of their technical debt and move out of data centers and out of server rooms and factories. I believe that Graviton really offers them kind of a value on moving to AWS, either as their custom applications that they can run on there, but we're also working with quite a few of our ISVs to enable their COTS, off-the-shelf applications, to actually run on Graviton. So, from a price performance point of view, I think it really gets value.
Okay, I get it. And I did have Trainium 3 Ultra servers in my list of top 10. So maybe while we're talking about kind of custom silicon, maybe let's tackle that one, because I see that's in your top 7.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously, again, Trainium 3 is, the 3rd generation of our, silicon specifically for, AI workloads. I think one of the key things here, and I don't believe I specifically put it in my my list, but obviously we're now offering kind of Trainium 3 as part of our AWS AI factories, which potentially could be of interest to our industrial customers. Specifically with AWS AI factories, we're bringing together our NVIDIA. Our partnership with NVIDIA, those GPUs, Trainium 3, and our AI services specifically for, manufacturers that have potential, sensitive data or need to address kind of their low latency ML inference workloads that they just can't move to the cloud. You know, manufacturing is all about kind of efficiency, and our customers don't want to have one tool set for running stuff on premise, managing that data, running those ML models, and then one for running it in the cloud. So obviously AWS AI factories really kind of gives them the ability to kind of run stuff in the cloud, run stuff on premise, and take advantage of our next generation of ultra servers. But use exactly the same AWS AI tools underneath.
And I'm glad you addressed that, because I had AI factories in my top 10.
Yeah.
But I kind of put AI factories and some of the sovereign cloud work that you're doing together. I guess also with another one that's on your list, which is really the Nova Forge capability to kind of build your own custom foundation models, which I think is, and maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I can tell, you're kind of the first to really offer that type of capability at scale, which as we have companies talking about industrial foundation models, kind of is kind of how are you going to do it? And you've kind of given us a blueprint for, in many ways, with these technologies on how you're going to do it, right?
Yeah. So around the Amazon Nova, I think we made two announcements. I think are quite relevant to manufacturers. The first one was kind of Amazon Nova 2, which is our first party frontier models. As part of the Amazon Nova 2 announcement, we obviously introduced 4 new models: Light, Pro, Sonic. Obviously, I think one that's kind of going to be very relevant to manufacturers is Omni, which is the first all-in-one model that combines multi-model reasoning.
Right.
I think this is key because going back to kind of our previous podcast about how we see AI being used in manufacturing, especially one of our global manufacturers. They may have plants in Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, Europe, US, Latin America. And as you know, there's going to be multiple kind of languages, out there. And why should the applications, work instructions, interactions have to be kind of multiply kind of translated and kind of replicated out there? So I think, something with like, Nova 2 Omni, it really kind of gives the power for, manufacturers to use kind of one single model and be able to have those multiple languages, be able to, interact, with a single model and a single kind of.
Right. Yep.
So Nova Forge is a new service really to help manufacturers kind of build their own frontier models by taking their data and using it with some of Amazon's pre-trained data to build kind of custom models. The nice thing with Amazon Nova Forge is there's different kind of checkpoints that customers can utilize as part of kind of that pre-trained model. They can start from kind of 0, or they can potentially go midway or towards the end of actually using Amazon Nova Forge. So yeah, multiple stages and value of that.
Great. And now I'm looking at your list. I can see you cheated a little bit by combining several, right? So maybe you do have a top 10.
Yeah.
But because you've got frontier agents here, and I see you've lumped in there Kiro, which I was fascinated by from a developer perspective, and the fact that you're developing a lot of your own code using Kiro. So that one, and then you've kind of lumped in with that. And I did have kind of the security and compliance agents I had in my top 10, and you've got the DevOps agent in there. So you kind of lumped frontier agents quite a lot in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things call out. Starting off with Kiro. I mean, we've spoken about this before, and I think we're all open that most manufacturers are not builders. They don't have those, developer kind of skill sets in house. So I think Kiro has been really powerful for manufacturers to be able to build applications. We'll talk about this low code, no code kind of capability, but using Kiro to build applications that they can actually then employ for industrial or factory use cases is kind of really powerful without
Uh-huh.
having to, be a software developer. So we've, over since Kiro, was in preview and announced at, the New York Summit, and then obviously it's now, GA. We're seeing, amazing things happening there. Obviously, with the agents built into that, developers that are using, or builders, let's say, or manufacturers using kind of Kiro, they can now take advantage of the agents in Kiro to perform kind of tasks in the back end. And those agents actually learn based on kind of issues, as the developers go along. And then, we announced Amazon Bedrock Agent Core this year. I think there's been a couple of key updates or announcements of new features that reinvent. I think two that really kind of stand out to me, specifically to kind of manufacturers, and specifically going back to a manufacturer's data is kind of key. Especially if they're building, production-based applications, is the Agent Core policy, where they can actually put guardrails around how those agents are actually interacting to make sure that things don't happen. The agents don't do things that are outside of what their policies are actually defined. And then the second one is evaluations. So with evaluations, and we've got 13 built-in ones that come from Amazon, and then we also enable users of that to be able to create their own kind of evaluations to make sure that the agents that they're actually building are actually doing what they need them to do, especially when we see them being kind of used to do things like predictive maintenance, or quality, or automate procurement processes.
Yeah, and you've raised quite a few interesting points in there. I would argue that actually a lot of manufacturers are building up their development skills because they know they have to. You can't deliver a manufacturing product without firmware and software.
Yeah.
In many cases now, but I take your point. They don't. A lot of them are still relatively young in that journey. Then they haven't been developing software as their core product, right?
Yeah.
So, great point. I hadn't really thought about Kiro necessarily through that lens. And Amazon Bedrock Agent Core, I see, was on your list as number 6, not necessarily ranked that way, but okay. So we've ticked that one off. And I think I'm sensing an overall theme, or at least I know the theme at AWS overall seemed to be about making it easier, simpler, achieving scale. So removing as many of the blockers and excuses for not being able to, not so much move to the cloud, but to really start on the AI journey and scale out and get value from AI across a wide range of your services.
Correct.
Right. What have we not talked about? I think we got Frontier Edge. Transform. Oh, we have to talk about AWS Transform.
Yes, indeed. Right. I mean, this goes back to kind of the initial point around, talking about Graviton 5 is, there is a massive amount of kind of technical debt out there, running in factories, built on, a Windows, stack of Windows OS, .NET, SQL databases.
Right.
And there's also running on kind of, VMware. And those customers are looking to actually kind of, move those, those workloads, applications. And I think, the announcements with AWS Transform specifically around VMware workloads, being able to kind of analyze those workloads, suggest what the architecture should look like. I'm summarizing here, and create configurations and actually help move them across to AWS is really going to help up and enable manufacturers to kind of migrate and modernize. And then same with around those Windows workloads. And I think a couple of key things here is, as part of AWS Transform, taking that Windows stack, where I have spoken to some manufacturers that they don't have the people that wrote those applications are no longer with those organizations.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of analyze and actually modernize as part of the migration or transform to AWS, moving into from a Windows to a Linux or containerized application using Postgres, I think is going to be a real accelerator for manufacturers that want to get rid of that technical debt.
Right. Sorry, having spent a long time at the aforementioned, I wrote a couple of pieces post AWS, kind of just comparing and contrasting what I heard at Ignite versus what I heard at AWS reInvent. So, which led me to another article kind of on multi-cloud, because it's not on the list here, but I think it was important. It may be important just to call that out a little bit, Steve, as well, right? That I heard a lot, which I hadn't heard before at reInvent, was even those two words together, multi-cloud. I don't think I'd heard. So maybe explain that a little bit on what was different this year about multi-cloud.
Yes. I mean, a lot of our customers are kind of, multi-cloud, and this is not something new. Customers are, running stuff on, AWS natively within their VPC and using Salesforce, for example. Obviously, there are other hyperscale providers out there. One of the announcements that came out was enabling customers to run stuff on Google GCP and AWS and actually have kind of network connectivity between the two cloud instances. So rather than customers having to use their own, network backbone to move traffic, or more specifically, kind of data between, they can take advantage of this new capability and service from AWS.
And I'm just scanning our list here, or your list and my list, and looks like the only one we haven't really talked about on your list is Strands, right? And this, I know we've talked about this in our other podcasts, but maybe talk a little bit about the updates on Strands agents, but I think remind everybody of what Strands is, right? Because not everyone will have listened to our previous conversations, right?
Yes. Strands is a SDK that kind of enables people to be able to build, agents, as part of, Bedrock Agent Core, for example. I mean, the key announcement here at reInvent, and it goes back to our conversations previously around kind of, physical AI. In the world of, physical AI, there is a need to run kind of applications, models, agents at the edge. And now with Strands agents, they can actually run at the edge. So run on those industrial devices as part of the whole kind of agentic agent that fill into kind of the physical AI kind of system, I would say.
Opens up and lets you scale agents at the edge, which of course for many of our use cases in industrial AI, you kind of have to at least have a component of that architecture has to deal with the edge, right?
Yes. I mean, we still see the value of running a lot of the kind of agents in the cloud, and especially when it comes to, building, training, validating and testing the models, and taking advantage of the on-demand compute and storage is really valuable. But then there's some instances where they need to run those agents locally, as you say. So, having, strands be able to run on, edge is going to be key, I think, to kind of enabling more use cases.
Right. I think I have maybe 3 on my list that we haven't talked about. If you're okay, Steve, I'll just kind of chat to you about those. And one wasn't a specific announcement. It was kind of like a collection of things around sustainability. There was lots of snippets that were related to energy efficiency, but you also had some customer case studies talking about that. So I kind of had one on sustainability as strategy, and that there is proven ROI to be gained. It's not just a politically correct thing to do. There is money in it. You can get ROI from your investments in and focus on sustainability.
Yes, indeed. And I know we've touched on it. Again, I'm bringing up again, like Graviton 5. There is, let's be, open and transparent. Data centers require, a lot of
energy,
energy and so forth. So if we can, get people to move on to Graviton 5 and take advantage of kind of the performance and a lower kind of energy utilization of those chips, then that all kind of feeds through to, the whole sustainability goal, and taking advantage of that and actually passing it on down the value chain.
Right. The other 2 were kind of, because I think you are often framed, and I've done the same myself, kind of frame you as a builder in terms of hyperscaler, that people who want to build their own capabilities are kind of your core customer base, and maybe how you're a bit different from the other hyperscalers. But I think we tend to forget, at least I don't forget, because I spend way too much money with Amazon, but we tend to forget about your expertise that comes out of Amazon in terms of supply chain. So I have some of the supply chain skills that you're starting to tap into and bring through in some of your capabilities. And similarly on Amazon Connect, I think there's some opportunities there, because almost, whether you're in the industrial sector and it's a B2B service use case, or you're in B2C, Amazon itself is lots of customer service and customer interactions that I think you said Amazon Connect is like a $1 billion annual run rate now, right? Was one of the things I took away from the event. So even though you may not have a CRM product, you actually have a lot to offer anybody who has got whatever CRM or homegrown systems they're using for customer service.
Yes, indeed. And I like specifically to what my team are focused on, like around, smart machines, for example, the real value that we're seeing manufacturers get by kind of integrating kind of their Amazon Connect environments with their IoT platform. Yes. So I was saying, yes, the value we're seeing from, manufacturers that have their smart connected industrial machines, and taking all that telemetry data that's coming from the machines kind of events, and having it integrated into their CRM system, their Amazon Connect, environment, so that when there is a customer making, a contacted them for whatever it may be, for troubleshooting or just like service, those agents can have all the information available of, who the customer is, what are the last, couple of events, how is the customer actually using their connected products, for example. So there's real power, I think, being seen by taking something like Amazon Connect, integrating them with their, connected products, platform
Yep.
and their CRM system.
Yeah, I framed it as a blueprint for industrial services in my top 10, right?
Yeah.
Thinking along the same lines. And supply chain, obviously, there's very few that operate supply chains as large or multifaceted as Amazon. So there were some indications that you're really starting to think about how to take some of that and make it available in some shape or form. And certainly there's partners that are leveraging those skills and building on that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything specific you want to say about supply chain, but I kind of had a couple of reminders to people that you're not just a builder, you have some very relevant skills that you're starting to think about. How do I offer those where it makes sense to your customer base?
Yes, indeed. I mean, as you say, Amazon has got a lot of, learnings and kind of expertise, in the supply chain space. And we're very aware that there is not one solution that fits all. So, when we look about supply chain, obviously we have our own kind of service, AWS supply chain, and we have, our partners, O9 Solutions is like, one I'll call out.
Know them well, yeah.
Yeah, but then also we have, our professional services team that can, come in and work with those customers that have got, very specific kind of supply chain challenges and need to build things like kind of control towers or want to build ML models to do kind of demand forecasting or demand planning. And then kind of like this is where potentially like our generative AI innovation center team can come in and really see how generative AI can be applicable to kind of supply chain use cases.
Right, and I think I can share with everybody that I think you're going to be joining us at ARC Forum in February, and we'll have one of your customers, Jabil, keynoting there. And one of the topics they'll be talking about is clearly what they're doing on supply chain in addition to manufacturing. So I think we will get that should be a fun conversation. So looking forward to having you there, Steve. But before we close out, I think you wanted to call out the Physical AI Fellowship.
Yes. So this is some announcement that we made earlier on this year. It's a partnership between Mass Robotics, NVIDIA, and actually going back to kind of our generative AI innovation center team, where we're kind of working together to help create a kind of or multi-point launch a cohort of physical AI fellowship. So robotics, startups that really kind of want to, start building and taking advantage of, physical, AI, they can kind of come part of this. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the three of us, work together as partners to, help kind of bring, physical AI really to manufacturing.
Yeah, we're really excited about the potential and the kind of fusion of something we covered for obviously decades in terms of industrial automation, and robotics themselves are not new, but certainly there's a lot of innovation and a lot of new capabilities coming, which is why we felt the need to put out kind of a new physical intelligence taxonomy, because we don't want to get over fixated on humanoid robots, but we see all the variations, all the different types of robotics kind of all accelerating rapidly with all of the new AI capabilities. But, it's like core manufacturing. There's so many more complexities that you have to deal with when you're interacting with people and machines that can be dangerous, right? We can also address a lot of skills gap, do a lot of things that are unsafe. Lots of fantastic opportunities, I think, to reimagine factories and shop floors in general with a variety of different robot types.
Yes, exactly. Yes, everything from kind of just moving material around autonomously to kind of, cobots, working with,
Right.
operators to, potentially full out, lights out cells. So yeah.
So timing seems excellent for the Physical AI Fellowship. But anyway, perhaps on that note, I think we clearly will be talking again, but we may well do an update in the near future to the audience on other topics that we've been talking about and teeing up. But thanks for the recap of AWS reInvite. How many people made it in the end? It was 60.
It's
60,000?
roughly, I think it was, yes, it was. Yes.
All right.
So I think
But
it
if
was
you
one
weren't
of our
one of
large.
those, yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say, I think it's one of the largest attendance we've had. So yes.
No, it was great. But not everyone makes it. And there are a lot of great technical conversations. But I think thanks for coming on and kind of explaining what were the most pertinent to really our OT, IT, ET, and data science audience that typically listens to our podcast. So thanks for joining me again, Steve.
No problem. And just saying that not everyone could have made it to reInvent. Just a kind of a reminder that all the sessions, lightnings, breakouts, keynotes are all on the AWS reInvent YouTube channel. And specifically for us, the manufacturing, we had Boeing, T Connectivity, Whirlpool, Caterpillar, just to name a few, kind of speaking on stage with us. So interesting stories.
Yeah,
to go listen
I
to.
think I've got a list of those specifically, and I may well attach them to the write-up on this podcast for those that are listening. It's a good reminder for me to add that. So I'll do that, Steve. But thanks. We need to wrap it up. Thanks for listening to Steve Blackwell from the Manufacturing Center of Excellence of Amazon Web Services, and myself, Colin Masson from ARC Advisory Group. Thanks for listening.